Hi friends, today we're going to learn all about CSS color models. Well, you might have noticed that some YouTubers or developers in real life don't actually use the colors that we know like red, blue and yellow and so on. Instead, they use a different format to represent colors when coding. It could be a hexadecimal format, RGB, RGBA or HSL. And we're gonna learn all these formats in detail today. So let's start with the first one. Alright, what is hexadecimal? Well, it is a way of representing 16 different values, starting from 0 to F. So, some of you might be wondering why are we using alphabets after the number 9? It's because hexadecimal doesn't take values more than 1-digit numbers. So when you want to represent 10, you can represent it by using A, 11 by using B, and so on until we can represent the biggest value of 15 using the letter F. And when we use hexadecimal color in CSS, we need to give 6 different values. The first 2 will be given for the red, the second 2 for green, and the last 2 for blue. To see it in action, I have made a small box with some color so that we can change the color and see how we can use it. So I'm gonna give the biggest possible values for red, which is F, and I'm gonna give 0 for green, 0 for blue, and there we go. We have a pure red there. And in the same way, if we change the second 2 values to F, we'll get a pure green, and in the same way if we change the last 2 to blue, we'll get a blue. And not only that, we can make a mixture of colors using them, like we can change it to 5F for the blue, and for green we can change to maybe 0 and F. You can play around with it and to understand how it works. We can make out any different colors using the combination of red, green and blue. And if you're using VS Code, you could just tap on it so that you can change the colors easily and just save it, which saves you more amount of time. But there is a part where we can use 3 values instead of using 6 different values. For example, when we were making the pure red, we used 2 values of F for red and we kept 0 for green and blue. Well, it's a short notation. I'm gonna give some space to help you understand it how it works. So instead of giving 6 different values, since we are giving the same values again and again, we can represent the red by using an F, 0 for green and 0 for blue, which leaves us with just 3 values of representing the same color. And in that way, we could see if it's giving the same. Yes, it does. And there's one more thing. When we're using black or white, you could just use 3 different values instead of using 6 values. For example, black would give you get a black when you have all 3 values of zeros. And if you need a white, just need to give the maximum amount of values for all 3. Whoops. And there you have a white. Okay, so that's all about the hexadecimal model. Now let's move on to the RGB model. Well, the RGB model is kind of related to the hexadecimal model because we have red, green and blue again. But here, instead of using the hexadecimal values, we can use a value from a range of 0 to 255, where 0 stands for the smallest value and 255 is the biggest possible value. So here's how we do it. So first, let me take this off. First we need to type as RGB, open and close brackets, and in the brackets we need to give the first value of red. For example, if you need to have the biggest value of red, you could use 255, no green, then 0, and no blue, then 0 again. So with that, you can get a pure red color. And in the same way, you could adjust it, to make different amount of colors. But here, since you have a value of range from 0 to 255, you can actually make a more amount of possible values more easier than how we can do using hexadecimals. You could give a 90, maybe you could give red some around like 70 and so on. So let's move on to the RGBA model, where A stands for alpha. Well, it's exactly the same how we did before, but here we can give up the opacity of the color using the alpha A. To show that, let me take this off. Now we can type as RGBA, open and close brackets, and in the same way we can give out the color for red, green and blue. And here, since we have the fourth value called A, which stands for alpha, which is what we're going to use to give out the opacity for our color. So it ranges from 0 to 1. So if you use 1, you'll get the full color because it's not transparent. But if you give out 0, it's 100% transparent, therefore you might not get the color. So as we can use values ranging from 0 to 1, we can check it like 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, maybe 0.4. You can notice that it's gradually becoming more transparent when we reduce the opacity by using the alpha value of 0.1. So that's how the RGBA works. With that, let's move on to HSL. Well, unlike the color models that we saw before, HSL works in a different way. So here, H stands for the hue, which is a degree on the color wheel, where 0 gives you the red, 120 gives you green, and 240 gives you blue. And so you can notice there are many more colors formed in between them, somewhat similar to a rainbow. And we'll move on to the next one, which is saturation. So here, 0% of saturation gives you a shade of gray, where 100% of saturation will give you a full color. And lastly, L stands for lightness. So you might have noticed this. So if you give a 0% to lightness, you can notice it's gonna become a complete blackout. And if you give 100% to the value of lightness, you can get a pure white. So let's see how we can use this here. So I'm going to take this off. You can type in as HSL, open and close brackets, give out the degree for hue, let's say 120. And now you can give some percentages of values for saturation and lightness. Let's say we need 80% of saturation and 60% of lightness, and yeah, we can form a color. And in the same way, if you reduce the lightness to 0, it will become black, and if you increase to 100%, it will become to pure white. So please keep a note of that. And by doing so, we can form different colors, various colors using this. So if you use 50 is somewhat around here, so that we're getting that color. If we go around to somewhat near to 240, we can find blue. And if we go above that, we can some more colors, unlike the same way how we can do in a rainbow. So feel free to play around with the colors and play around with different color models so that you can understand where to use which color model. And as usual, all the source code will be given in our blog so that you can try it yourself by just changing the values of different colors and understanding how the color models work. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button if you found that this video is useful. And do subscribe for more videos like this. Have a great day. Happy coding!